Oh, hey, how you doing? You know, my camera doesn't exist. I know I'm looking at it, but it doesn't exist. Neither does this mic. It's like being a conservative. Something could be right in its face, and they will deny it's true. They're like, you point out that there's racism, just like this mic, there will be crying racism. Another day, another black conservative telling black Americans to ignore the racial optics of having a jury of no black people on a case as racially charged as the Karmelo Anthony case. While he's preaching that black people need to be accountable, and if only black people would be accountable, and where are all the dads? Why don't black people take care of their kids and be more accountable? He's one of those. DeVory Darkins is his name, and that's weird because it shouldn't be Darkins, it should be Whitens. Surprised he didn't get a name change.
So the Karmelo Anthony trial out of Frisco, Texas is now on day 3. And this comes as the jury has finally been selected. But people are already crying racism because there's not a black person on the jury.
Stop it right there, Ernie. Where's Bert? Are you trying to say that black people are children? Because you're saying we're crying. Babies cry. I'm a grown-ass man, dog. I'm not crying about shit. I'm pointing out the inequities of our system. I'm pointing out cosmetically, optically, this looks horrible. When you have a young black man on the trial for his life, can serve 5 to 99 years, and the prosecution dismisses the last of 3 potential jurors who happen to be black American women that were very qualified to sit on that jury, who didn't have a problem with bias. And you're telling me that to point that out, that seems strange. That's strange. You're strange.
It does happen that you could get an all-white jury and it could be upheld in the courts because it depends on how the prospective jurors answer the questions. If the prosecutor can convince the judge that the reason why he is striking the juror is because of a race-neutral reason, then he'll be allowed to do so.
So based on the eyewitnesses, based on the language that was used that led up to the actual stabbing, none of it was race-based.
This man is actually sitting here trying to tell us that the Karmelo Anthony case does not have any race involved in it. Last time I checked, it involved a white kid and a black kid. You don't think that there's racial tensions in Texas? You don't think this case has racial tensions running all the way through it? That's something we're making up.
Let's go to this.
We learned that not a single person of color, not a single black person is on this jury or makes up this jury. An attorney I spoke with after that news broke said to him it appeared to be, strange. We're going to get more into that later. Meantime, when we see the defendant here, Karmelo Anthony,
but the idea that this is racially charged, that's coming from the media. They're the ones who are giving that attention. You're always going to have people who play the race card.
I notice time and time again that it is the conservatives that tell you that anytime people bring up race, that's the issue. But no, it's the people that are being racist that make race be brought up. It's like I'm walking down the street and there's a dog off its leash and it's coming towards me. And I'm like, hey, somebody get this dog. And out pops DeVory Darkins going, why are you always calling out dogs? You're always complaining about dogs. Why you keep on saying dogs, crying dog? Jackass, there's a dog right there. It's off its leash. It's coming my way. So the racial tension, the racial element is not just a media thing. Of course the media feeds on it. They're going to feed on everything. That's why they call the media or corporate media. And you're proving that independent media does too. I mean, you're talking about the case and you're talking a lot about race there, DeVory. Devoid of a soul. If you enjoy this content, you get something out of it, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and don't forget to turn on notifications because I'd hate to see you stuck listening to and watching content creators like DeVory Darkins lie to you on a daily basis while he smears black people into oblivion.
Self-defense is not a crime! 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 Self-defense is not
self-defense is not a crime. But the question remains, will his attorneys be able to prove that to a jury? Meaning, is he going to be able to prove that he did commit self-defense because he felt he was in danger?
Yeah, he might be able to. Why the condescending tone there, sir? You don't know if he's going to be able to prove it or not. In fact, you got to prove that he was not committing self-defense, that he was not defending himself. That's what the prosecutor's got to prove. He don't have to prove a damn thing. Remember, that's kind of how our justice system works.
But the question remains, will his attorneys be able to prove that to a jury? Meaning, is he going to be able to prove that he did commit self-defense because he felt he was in danger? And according to, again, the rhetoric that was reported, I would argue he's the one that actually issued the threat. So, that's a whole nother thing. But again,
Why does he, look, man, why do you talk like this? And I'm trying to understand. Why do you talk like this? Like a stereotype of a white man pretending to be a black man. Or a black man pretending to be a white man. Like, why are you doing this? You're stuck in an Eddie Murphy skit back in SNL. Do you ever just be yourself? Or maybe this is yourself. Man, I can't stand these fake ass, bogus ass. Hey, come get this bogus ass, phony ass. He can't even talk like a regular person. He don't even talk like the voice that comes out of his body. What is this? I'm supposed to take this guy seriously? He's got 1 million subscribers. I know. But doesn't mean it's for a good reason. OnlyFans models have a lot of followers too.
I just want to go back to this problem with sons, men in America. When we don't have strong fathers, when we don't have strong leaders, we end up becoming the stereotypes in the movie called Boys in the Hood.
You think if DeVory Darkins was talking about white people right now, he'd be talking about their fathers? Statistically speaking, black men spend more time with their kids, their sons, than white dads do. But Darkins would never let his audience know that because they might become offended at the truth. What's that got to do with the Karmelo Anthony story? I mean, Austin dad is not in the home, but Karmelo's dad is in the home, so what are you even talking about? Did you do even the circumspect, even like general research on this shit?
So, the bottom line here is when we don't have strong men and strong fathers.
Obviously, Darkins' audience likes this talking point. Yeah, he must use this a lot. It's like his go-to. The problem with black people are their parents. They don't have dads. That's right, demonize black men, of which you are one. But you're the good black, right? How much you want to bet is in an interracial relationship? Not saying nothing's wrong with it, but it just seems he's giving me Officer Tatum, Jesse Lee Peterson vibes over this mofo. Know what I'm saying? Knew it. Hey, to each his own, to each his own.
I wonder, will they also be protesting for better fathers? Will they be protesting for marriages?
I thought we were talking about Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf's story. I thought we were talking about that murder case and talking about the jury. Why is this guy talking about, giving us a lecture about black dads and black moms and families and shit? Why is he talking about that? This is what y'all do, huh? Y'all sit around and let a non-licensed person dictate to you about the psyche of black people. I guess if that's what you into. It just don't make sense to me. These guys going down the hill and hitting every hot button stereotype about black people along the way and providing no evidence at all that has anything to do with this case. But it's just talking points he can pull out the air, and he knows his audience will go along with it because anything negative about black people, they will co-sign, even if it has nothing to do with this. What's he going to bring up next? Kool-Aid, chicken, waffles? Huh? Well, what's next? Watermelon?
because they have slipped into what we would call fatal empathy. Some, as I already pointed out, and you heard, because he's a brother, and some believe he's just a kid and doesn't belong to go to jail for the rest of his life. So they automatically say, hey, I don't want to be a part of this particular case. And so it just goes to show that there are people in our society that don't even want to take part in the process of holding someone accountable, even in a fair way.
This guy wants to make it like it's black people that don't want to be accountable. All types of people get out of jury duty, guy. Some people have real jobs. That's the shit you and I do to make a buck. Some people got to go places and drive to them and got to do it, in order to keep the roof overhead. And they don't have time to be playing away games on jury pools, trying to decide somebody's fate. They don't want to do that. That's an American right not to want to do it, just as it's an American right for you to can't wait to do it.
There were quite a few jurors that said they're not comfortable. This is a kid. They don't feel comfortable giving him life. They don't feel comfortable sending him to prison for 5 years. You had juror number 142 says, I am not comfortable giving or sending a brother to prison. You had white women that are saying, this is a child. He needs to learn. He made a horrible mistake. But sending him to prison for the rest of his life will not allow him to learn. You had white men saying, I can't do it. Even if you selected me, I'm not going to issue him a punishment. So the prosecution took the floor first. Both sides get 1 hour and 45 minutes.
I'm glad I got to play that clip because it shows you a different perspective of how other people saw these jurors. And I'm glad they tapped out because they clearly have a case of fatal empathy.
Yeah, fatal empathy. How about just not feeling comfortable in sentencing children to life in prison? He's facing 5 to 99 years in prison. Isn't it honest for people to say that they're not down to do that? Or you would rather for people to lie and say they're down to do it, get on the jury, and then lie and mess up this case and just perjure themselves? Is that what you're trying to tell me or whatever, like to not follow the jury instructions? Isn't it better for people to be open and honest, which is something you're incapable of doing here, DeVory? And be forthcoming and say, hey, I'm not a good fit for this. Let me be honest with you. But instead of you crediting people with having the transparency to keep it real, you want to shit on them for views.
They're not in the business of really holding people accountable. And, I just don't think in America, some people have the stomach for it. And I'll give you an example of this. Just look at parents. Some people don't have the spine, the stomach, the confidence, the commitment to actually be a firm parent with their child.
This guy be blowing a racial whistle all day, don't he? Yeah, just whistle, dog whistle of racism all day, sitting on black people. You can't get through like a portion of your segment without making it about black families and about black accountability and black fathers and black mothers. And I know why you're throwing in all this extra stuff, because you don't want to talk about the Batson Challenge. See, the Batson Challenge explains how the prosecution dismissed these last black female jurors, educated females, educated black women from the jury. You don't want to talk about that because that's how we end up with no black people on the jury. And you want to keep talking about black fathers need to do a better job. It's not going to work with me, DeVory.
You see, the problem with Karmelo Anthony is he clearly not only had some anger issues in that moment, he clearly felt that he needed to defend himself with a knife. So that's flag number 2. Flag number 3, where was his father at? His father did not teach.
He can't help it. He can't help it. All he can do is go back to dumping on black people and making something about family or his dad. Or why come you can't stay on the case, brother? Is it that you don't have a solid case? You don't have a point?
That's the thing that pains me every single time. But you guys let me know if you see it the same way. Do you find that the jury not having a person of color, as they put it, racist, do you think he's going to get a fair trial?
I don't know if Karmelo Anthony is going to be able to get a fair trial there in that city in Texas. Do you know that There's been Supreme Court rulings in Texas due to how racialized they have been towards Black Americans and towards Mexicans. Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right? You would think DeVory would have done a little bit of research and been able to speak to some of that, but he spent his whole time talking about how Black people don't have dads. Yeah, see, Texas has a history of not letting Black people sit on juries and judges saying, not a problem. Sort of like what you're doing right now. But instead of talking about those things, he wants to spend all his time talking down to Black people or about Black people to his white audience. Let's keep it a buck. Ain't a lot of Black people watching DeVory Darkins. Okay? He spent all his time talking about shit that didn't have anything to do with the case. Just getting on his soapbox about what Black people don't do with their families. DeVory, I understand that your financial stability comes from your lack of ability or your lack of intention of keeping it real when it comes to anything racial. I get it, I see it. The problem you have is people like me have a microphone as well, and we get to tell the truth. And while I'm telling the truth, I'll take time out to come enlighten people to just how horrible you are. So let me put this in a way that makes sense for you. It pains me that you're such a sellout. And I just wish that you were better and that you had a dad that taught you to love yourself. Instead of chastising Black people and saying we're crying racism, insulting us with that bullshit, maybe you could spend some of your time actually covering the case that you think is so lock and rock solid for the prosecution, because you didn't make many points. My name's Tim Black. I see y'all on the next one.
Catch Tim Black live on the most dangerous show in America, Sundays, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Times. Don't miss out on the real. Stay dangerous.